up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. This is The Dope. I'm your host, Maui. Here with me is my co-host, Stephanie. Stephanie, how you doing, bud?
Hello, I'm all right. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. This is our first day of doing something new on our show. We are doing the Dope Debate Club. Super excited about it. Here's how it's going to work. There are three members on a team, three members on the other team. They're going to argue three different categories about their chosen fandom. As you might be able to tell, I am on Team Jedi, and Stephanie will be one of our three judges.
Yes.
Very, very excited to try this out. This is our first time doing this, so see how it goes. It's a pilot. I will also say that all of the arguments that are happening are all in good fun. I'm sure all of us love both properties, but we might say things we don't really mean, and it's all for fun. And don't say anything personal about anybody. This is all just for fun, and yeah. So let's try and be positive and not toxic, which I don't think we'll have a problem because we have a pretty kick-ass panel of people just across the board. I'm very excited. First up, I'll bring in the other team captain.
Maui Jones, today we fight!
Yeah, I'm not concerned. So
well, fine.
My team will be Team Jedi. We will be arguing for Star Wars being the better franchise. Catherine was Team Tolkien, and they'll be arguing about Lord of the Rings. Now, we are arguing specifically 6 movies versus 6 movies. So my team is arguing episodes 1 through 6, and your team is arguing the Hobbit trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
That's correct.
Yeah. So let's also bring in next our judges. So we have Stephanie, and then the rest of her tribunal. We have Mike. Mike, how you doing, Mike?
Hey.
And we have Alex. How you doing, Alex?
Bum, 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 bum.
All right. So
was that the People's Court?
I looked up the People's Court music, and it's still a bop.
It's still a bop.
I love that for you.
I would love to know from the judges what are you looking for? We're asking, based on the arguments. So what are you looking for tonight as you're listening to these arguments?
I'm looking for passion behind what you're saying, and I honestly think that's my biggest one because that's my favorite thing about fandom is when people get really passionate about the things they love.
Okay. Mike?
I guess just a solid argument. As I said about the whole Disney song category, good argument can easily sway you.
This is true.
That's true. And Alex, what are you looking for in this scrum?
I love a good counter argument. I love when somebody is able to take what has been presented to them and in a very fast fashion be able to break it down and then offer counterpoints and just kind of this back and forthness of it.
Yeah.
Okay. All good. Okay, let's bring in our teams. I'll bring in your team first, Kat, if you want to introduce your team.
Sure.
All right,
well,
tell me who you want me to bring in.
On our story side of the argument, we have Miss Beth over here.
And now your starting lineup for Team Tolkien.
Yeah, and in this corner, arguing for cultural impact, we have Mr. Eric Lindbergh.
I'm prepared.
Yes, let's go.
All right.
Bonus points.
Yes, Team Tolkien bringing the fashion game.
All right. Lovely team. Now let me bring out the champions, the dynasty.
The dynasty. After one argument.
After 0 argument for some somehow right. We're a dynasty. All right. First up, She is arguing technical. I think I got that right. Did I get that right? Yes, I did get that right. She is the one, the only, Shelly Mack.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. And arguing culture and impact, the one, the only, Gavin Pack. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. Verbal judo indeed, Ian. Verbal judo indeed. It's going to be wild. Okay, so the way it's gonna work is we have 2 minutes for your opening statement. So we're gonna start with Tech first. We're gonna hear each side's opening statement. No one is allowed to interrupt during opening statements. After we get opening statements, we will bring in everybody for a 5-minute scrum where we're just going to kind of go back and forth. There are no rules in the 5 minutes. We're just going back and forth. You can ask questions. You can try and, break down, the other side's arguments, anything you want. At the end of that 5 minutes, there will be a 1-minute closing argument summation. Okay. All right. I want a clean match. All right, no, nothing below the belt. All right. So for opening arguments, for Tech, that's going to be Catherine and Shelly, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm going to take the rest of us out. Let me start a timer.
Yes, yeah. Will we have knowledge of when we got a minute to go or 30 seconds to go or something?
Yeah, I'll just turn my camera off, but you'll still be able to see me. Actually, if everybody just wants to turn their camera off, that makes it easier for me. Just turn your camera off and mute your mic. Thank you, everybody.
Once you're tech people, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh, that's real serious looking now.
I know, right? Damn.
Oh, this is so exciting. I'm so excited. I just can't hide it.
I'm kind of nervous.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. It'll be fine.
I feel like I've gotten training with the Disney debates, but now I'm like, oh shoot, this is for real. This is formal.
I'm nice.
Me too.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
Wait a minute, you just said you're like Darth Vader in all these quizzes.
Ultimately, Vader's just that's just because I'm a Scorpio.
Okay,
that's just.
All right, your timer is ready.
Who's starting?
Can you give me Catherine? Pick a number between 1 and 3.
2.
All right, you're going first.
Oh crap.
Okay. The 2 minutes will start once you start speaking. Okay.
2 minutes.
Think of 2 minutes for your opening statement. It'll start once you start speaking. I'll hit the start.
Yeah, take a breath.
All right. Yes. Here we go. It's performance. All right. Here we go. The Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, 2 absolute cornerstones of technical theater, cinema. Here we have 2 absolute feats of movie making, starting with The Lord of the Rings, which completed this incredible feat of filming 3 3+ hour long films back to back to back. Which anybody who knows anything about movie making, you're doing a couple shots per day. You're doing them not in order. The fact that they got the quality that they did in that kind of time, is absolutely incredible. Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit both were excellent blenders of practical effects plus CGI, costumes, prosthetics, miniatures, weapons. It pulls out absolutely all the stops. In fact, let's talk about those miniatures for a second. They actually coined the term bigature because these miniatures were so big, they took up whole rooms. You'd have a room and the miniature would touch literally every wall. They have pioneered the digital character. Yes, we realize that Star Wars had Jar Jar, but Gollum is incredibly believable, and Andy Serkis was a pioneer of motion capture acting and turning that into an art form in and of itself.
30 seconds remaining.
And of course, the actions. If you want actions that'll stir your soul, Lord of the Rings got it. Helm's Deep is probably the best battle to ever be put on film. They're combining gritty, mudslinging action with, scores and stunts and all the things you could ever possibly want in a technical film. I yield my
5,
time.
4, and
I
your
yield
time
my
is yielded.
time.
All right, did that in a minute 55. Nice.
Thank you.
And all right, Shelly, your 2 minutes starts when you start speaking.
Okay. I swear, my heart wasn't pounding until he said 5 seconds to you, and then it was like, oh, okay.
I will let you know that goes by really fast. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I got this. Okay. So just to kick things off, I'm going to start out by talking about the first initial movies for both series. Star Wars: A New Hope originally was released in 1977 with a budget of $11 million and grossed $775 million. If we convert that to today's dollars, that is $48.3 million for a budget and a box office gross of $2.865 billion. Now, if you put that in comparison to the same conversion rates for the Fellowship of the Rings, your totals are for the budget of $150 million compared to a gross box office of $1.35 billion. A New Hope's revenue is more than double the Fellowship was, and they were able to do it in less than 1/3 of the equivalent budget. Nevertheless, Star Wars managed to make considerable advancements in film and essentially revolutionized the way film and technology aspects ranging from sound production, composite shots, 3D animation, and so much more. There's much to be said for how Lord of the Rings used extensive costume techniques and all of that. I'm not trying to take away from that. I love those movies too. However, when you compare what the budget was, what the resources that they had available to them and the time, and you convert that to what, has been a lasting standing power in, cultural development in technology and major influences on how technology is applied to film today, there really is no contest between the two. I think I have way too much time left, don't I?
Are you yielding your time?
How much time do I have left?
10 seconds.
10 seconds? Okay. I'll get to the next part and the next part because I got to fact check something real quick.
Okay. All right. We're about to start our next phase, which is open argument phase. But before we do that, I want the judges to come back on screen, please. All right, judges. I don't want you to tell us who you think is winning so far, but I want you to just say what if any of you have something to say in terms of what you want to hear from either Team Jedi or Team Tolkien that you think that you would like to hear more of. Now is the time to do so. Nothing?
Just more specifics.
More specifics? Okay. All right. And then
I guess from Team Tolkien, if you can, I know it's hard to do just off the cuff, more facts rather than just like it was this. Like, was it?
Okay.
If that makes any sense, bro.
Also, audience, feel free to throw things in the chat. We can all see the chat. Feel free to throw stuff in the chat if you have any comments that you want to make on what we're talking about. We got quite a few people watching right now. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. Let's bring in everybody. Oops. Everybody turn your screens back on. That includes me. Okay, so let's get our teams together. Alrighty. Okay. 5-minute open argument phase starts when someone starts talking.
So I would like to start on and say that yes, we do recognize and respect the advancements that Star Wars made in the visual technology era, but I feel like Lord of the Rings took that kind of foundation and really built on it. Like I mentioned previously, the digital character of Gollum that blew everyone's mind with the motion capture, but there's even more to it than that. I mean, Weta, it wrote literal software to create certain items like the CGI fire with the Balrog, and they created another program called Massive that allows two armies to go at each other, and each fighter in that army has like their own brain and can do combat independently. That other project have used as well.
Now, you're talking about how they've written the software. Star Wars actually invented the hardware. They invented on set the actual computer components to digitally process composite shots. So that means combining shots where they're doing an enhanced motion sort of shot, as well as doing composite shots with green screen or blue screen. Blue screen was relatively only smallly used prior to that. However, for Star Wars, they started enhancing their getting more crisp green screen use by using fluorescent lights and things along those lines. So, there was improvement. Let's see, the original film Fellowship released in 2001. So let's see, and A New Hope released in 1977. So we're talking 24 years, right?
Not to mention, they also, with the prequel trilogy, we're creating CG on par with what it is.
Correct. And
Yes, let's talk about the CGI in the prequel trilogy, shall we?
Oh yeah.
You got something to say? Because if you want to talk about bad CG, why don't we talk about the Hobbit movie?
I am talking about the quality of the CG. I'm talking about the amount of CG, my friend.
The
Lord of the Rings and Hobbit,
because we can show our technical prowess in our
Okay,
CG.
let's go, man. The Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogy, they flew those actors on top of mountains, into forests, down rivers, on rafts. They did the dang thing. And again, like I said before, those miniatures, they built cities. A lot of the making of Star Wars was done on film sets with green screens everywhere, and you're supposed to act next to like a tennis ball.
Actually, the early, some of the first filming for A New Hope was done in Africa.
Yes.
So
Gavin,
and then the post-production, and the first time that all the characters actually got to meet in person was in, I believe, London, about 3-4 months after filming in Africa.
And being on a green screen does not negate the impressiveness if we're going to focus on the action technicality component of this argument of some of the choreography in the prequel trilogy. Anakin versus Obi-Wan is widely regarded as one of the most intense and emotional action sequences from this sort of genre of film, and to have Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen actually go at it without CGI augmentation for the actual choreography of the lightsaber duel is a really impressive feat. I don't think that using the technology available to them is necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we're seeing a pioneer in technology with The Mandalorian on the volume. Being in a green screen as opposed to being on set doesn't negate how good something is, especially because Star Wars is the thing that really birthed practical effects in modern action adventure.
One other thing that I'd like to throw out there is, the sound score. Now, I actually really enjoy the Lord of the Rings sound score. I can recognize a lot of that music. It's very nice and chill and everything. But George Lucas has actually even stated in the past that he designed his films so that they could actually be, especially the original trilogy, could actually function as silent films and be driven merely by the substantial effectiveness of the sound score. Everyone
30
knows
seconds.
The Empire. Everyone knows Darth Vader's theme song, the Imperial March. Most people I think can probably even recognize the theme music for Princess Leia. Things like that are just highly sensory as far as how they affect people and how people relate to a film.
I would like to talk about that choreography though, because I would argue that at least the prequel trilogy is over choreographed. And if you want epic battle scenes that feel real with sweat and mud and rain and limbs being hacked off and guys doing their own stunts, Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trio, that's for you, my friend.
But it's all an homage to Eastern cinema
Time.
culture.
Time. Okay. Excellent job, everybody. Excellent job. This is so much fun. Oh my god. I'm loving hearing everybody's thoughts. All right. We are going to do our 1 minute close. Kat, since you started, so we'll let Shelly go first on this one. Shelly, I'll give you a single actually for your closing argument. Here you go.
Ooh. I'm ready for my close-up.
Whenever you start talking.
Okay, so in closing, as far as technical attributes go, I will not, necessarily argue that there is not a higher technical application within the Lord of the Rings films. However, within their time and within the context of the resources and the funding available, Star Wars was able to do so much more with that, and really make some significantly timeless films. You don't see that same sort of pull and drive and constant inspiration that later filmmakers are deriving from when you're talking about Lord of the Rings that you do from Star Wars. Now, I acknowledge that some of that is just because Star Wars has been around longer, but some of that is more an argument for when we get to the story and plot and character development. I'd just like to say it's been a really wonderful experience getting on this show and being able to debate this with you, and I love hearing these counterpoints.
And that's exactly a minute. That's impressive. Alrighty, let's give Kat a single. And Kat, time starts when you start speaking. Oh,
my friends, if you want a set of two amazing film trees that are based in gritty realism that combine the practical effects with the CGI, married simultaneously, that create incredible pieces of work like the battle with the Balrog, Helm's Deep, which in my opinion is the best battle scene put on screen. If you want high stakes in your action rather than battle droids and stormtroopers that can neither shoot and could probably be bowled over with a feather, and you want scary villains like orcs and again Balrogs and things like that, and Nazgul, Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, that is the fandom for you. I yield my time.
Shots fired.
I want to give you like a high five.
Oh my goodness, that was hilarious. All right, everybody, come back on screen while we get ready for the second round. Oh, that was hilarious. Alrighty. Okay, so first round is done. Judges, you're not going to tell us your summations till the very end. We had a scoring system we were going to give you, but I felt like it was too much for the pilot. So we'll have it ready for the next one. So for this, you're really just going to each give a point either to Team Jedi or Team Tolkien for the first round. All right, based on across the three, however you want to score it internally in your head, write it down, whatever you got to do, keep your point totals in your head. I will have you probably send it to me on Facebook Messenger, your point totals at the end for us to figure out the winner of this debate. That was a pretty good opening round. How's everybody feeling?
Woo!
Feel pretty good?
That was a rush.
Energized.
It's intense.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn the format here.
Yeah. Well, we all are.
Yeah, no kidding.
So,
The panic is my body trying to help me.
I know, Sam. Yeah, I know. I'm freaking out. Not gonna lie.
All right.
There's a Doctor Who quote in there somewhere. I can't quite remember exactly what it was, but fear is supposed to be a superpower.
I like that a lot. All right, our second round is culture and impact, and I believe we have Gavin and Eric arguing this round. Yes. All right, y'all know how it goes. We'll all turn off our cameras.
Just a minute.
Oh,
Eric, come back.
Eric, come back.
There you go.
Sorry, having technical difficulties.
Fair match, sir. A little shake of the hand.
Okay. Gavin, pick a number between 1 and 3.
3.
Eric, pick a number between 1 and 3.
1.
All right, Eric, you're going first.
Okay.
All right. And real quick, Virginia said, "I'm so excited. This is so much fun." Okay, love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. All right, Eric, your 2 minutes starts when you start speaking.
All right. The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies have had an incredible cultural impact on film, on the genre of fantasy, even on television series to this day. The third film of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Return of the King, was the first fantasy film to win Best Picture and to sweep at the Oscars, winning every category it was nominated in, coming out with a total of 11 wins, tying with Ben-Hur and Titanic for the most Academy Awards won by a single film. It made the high fantasy genre mainstream. It brought a resurgence of this genre. It paved the way for so many other fantasy projects that we're seeing even today on film and television. Game of Thrones, Chronicles of Narnia, The Witcher, His Dark Materials, The Shannara Chronicles, The Wheel of Time, which is being adapted. Every company seems like they're trying to recreate Lord of the Rings. They are trying to tap into that zeitgeist of the fantasy genre and the success that it brought to Weta and to New Line Cinema. Even without new films or spin-offs to keep the franchise in the public eye, Lord of the Rings is still a massively popular franchise 20 years later, with Amazon paying a record $1 billion for a 5-season television commitment, sight unseen, just to have the rights to the Lord of the Rings. Now Disney has been keeping Star Wars in the public eye with TV shows and movies and cartoons. Lord of the Rings did not even need any of that. Just on the impact that those films had on the culture, it is still going strong all these years later. And if you want to talk about the cultural impact, it made New Zealand a must-see tourist destination. That's an entire culture itself whose economy has been heavily influenced by the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films.
Time.
I yield my... Oh, I'm in time. Right.
Yeah. There's no time left to yield. That was perfect
I couldn't
timing.
hear you. Sorry.
No, that was great job. Great job. All right. And Gavin, your time starts whenever you start speaking.
All right, today I'm arguing for Star Wars' cultural impact by focusing on its social influence and how it's contributed to the creation of the modern fandom experience. And my first argument is going to focus on how the unprecedented success of Star Wars paved the way for modern movie watching culture and for modern fandom. You know, Star Wars' release in 1977 was so truly unprecedented that there was so much doubt surrounding this production on, you know, the script level, on the funding level, on the production level. And to think that something this successful had so much doubt really just shows that nothing like it had truly been done before. Its success was so wildly unexpected, and its success, despite its success, Mark Hamill and a lot of the cast are so quoted as saying that we never expected the call that we eventually got for the sequel, which is why it was, of course, written as a standalone initially. So the fact that we have a modern movie-going culture that can focus on, you know, multiple length story arcs, on franchises, on investment in characters, and on a crazy sci-fi fantasy genre hopping sort of movie is all testament to the unprecedented, truly unprecedented success of Star Wars at the time. My second argument focuses on some of the more cinematic feats of Star Wars. For example, the creation of ILM and the digital puppeteering and the painted backdrops all paved the way for new technologies so that other movies can flourish in this similar way. My next argument is going to focus on the scope beyond cinema, on the social aspect of Star Wars, how people and audiences were able to see strong women like Princess Leia or people of color like Mace Windu or Lando Calrissian in the movies, and see that reflected in their modern culture, and even take it to the next level of, you know, we see Princess Leia in protest signs on the street saying, you know, a woman's place is in the rebellion. Star Wars' social impact is so vast, it permeates even our everyday life, and more importantly, our activist lives in this intersectional way. Star Wars is also one of the first recorded examples of online gay fan fiction, along with Kirk and Spock. So a lot to thank sci-fi for there.
And time. Alrighty. Woo. Spicy. All right, let's bring the judges back in. Judges. All right, judges. What do you want to hear in this open argument phase? We heard two very very powerful opening statements. What would you like to hear in this opening argument phase?
Both arguments are very strong. Keep it up.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear about because you guys both kind of touched on this, how it impacted like nerds and people who enjoyed the fandom aspect of it, but also the people who watch these things casually.
Yeah, think of the mainstream audience rather than the niche markets that obviously both really hit on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We have our marching orders from our tribunal. All right, everybody, turn your cameras back on. Let's get into our 5-minute open floor session. All right. Looks like we're already arranged as we should be. Perfect. Okay. 5 minutes starts whenever somebody starts talking.
I really like that was brought up because the casual ease of entry for Star Wars is such an important part about the story and its accessibility. You know, Joseph Campbell, and Maui's going to touch upon this, but his archetypical idea of the hero's journey is something that everybody can relate to. Star Wars is something that everybody can relate to because they can see themselves inflected on the screens, whether it's through strong female characters, whether it's through people of color actually being in these movies. And the ease of access is really one of the most important parts of it. The lore, while vast and deep in the expanding universe, is very easily understandable because it's based on principal tenets such as good versus evil, which, of course, we take in our movie watching experience and we put it out in the real world. I mean, even stormtroopers have inspired, the 501st cosplay fan group, which does charitable acts for fans across the world. That is absolutely awesome because these ideas of good versus evil are so easily digestible that we can reflect it out into the world through Star Wars.
Yes.
I would argue that the simplicity is actually to Star Wars' detriment. Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit never talk down to their audience in that way. And they are based on Norse and Anglo-Saxon mythology that have been going on for thousands of years instead of one archetypal hero's journey. And the scripts themselves in both trilogies use flowery, almost Shakespearean language that really heighten up the world building as well as making it complicated and nuanced.
I would argue that
really
actually makes
relevant
it less
point
accessible.
That the Lord of the Rings series are very ethnocentric towards Western European culture. However, Star Wars was inspired heavily by Buddhist philosophy,
as well as Western, old school Westerns and old school movie serials. There's it's such a wonderful mixture of various cultural influences that allows it to be the ultimate accessible fandom.
Well, sure, because this has more to do with the books than with the film. But if we're going to talk about the origins, Tolkien created Lord of the Rings as an answer to the Norman invasion of Anglo-Saxon territory, and thereby wiping out all the oral history and all the oral traditions. He wrote that to give his people, some sort of legendarium.
I believe George Lucas is quoted as saying in conversation with James.
Whoa, hold on. Pausing while we figure that.
George Lucas is quoted as saying in conversation with James Cameron that Star Wars was in response to the Vietnam War and depicting how a small group of people not expected to win can fight against imperialists, which I think is actually a really prescient point. So there is historical precedent, and of course, as my teammate said, there is influence from all sorts of cultures coming in here that make it a relevant story that unfortunately is still relevant today. I mean, rising up against fascists.
I'd also like to point out just overall in the cultural influence of Star Wars.
I think Beth was about to say something. I want to make sure that she gets some space to talk.
On a different topic, you into the mainstream, what is more pivotal to how people interact with each other, especially on the internet today, than memes? And I would like to say that the Lord of the Rings meme game is super strong. We have got One Does Not Simply, you have my bow, What about Sci-Fi Saturday for Friends? What about Second Breakfast? Meat's back on the menu. And everyone readily recognizes Gollum and knows what to do with those kinds of memes as well. And the Star Wars memes, I can't name too many.
Oh, hello
And I would piggyback off that and say, yes, the prequel trilogy particularly does have a meme game, but people are only memeing the prequel trilogy because they think that it's, silly and you can have people fun at it. Yeah, exactly.
The joy derived is still important, though. I do want.
Oh yeah, totally, and you can say that for both sides.
And I think go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, after you. I'm just.
Beth, you mentioned something about the instant recognition. I do want to point out on the cultural impact scale, like all you need to do is see an image from Star Wars or hear a note of the score, and it's instantly recognizable as Star Wars. I think that speaks deeply to its cultural impact.
I think the same can be said for Lord of the Rings. All you need to see is the Eye of Sauron, the ring, all these images. These are just as much a part of people's culture and the collective unconscious at this point.
Yeah, and
real quick, my last thing I will say is that the accessibility that Star Wars built in, where people can actually play in the sandbox, the expanded universe aspect of Star Wars is unprecedented. Also, their film and toy production line invented a whole new way to market these things. Just saying.
I would like to go back. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
I'd like to go back to something that Gavin said, and that people are even dressing up as the bad guys. I'm not sure that's necessarily a good thing that people are dressing up and as idolizing those.
Sauron or any of the bad guys from Lord of the Rings. So,
no, not that I've seen. Not really.
And all right, time. Woo! Spicy. Okay. Huh. Okay. Let's take ourselves out, and we're gonna go to 1 minute close.
I'm supposed to stay.
All right, and let's see who started that one. Eric started that one, so Gavin, you'll start this ending. Go ahead. Whenever you are ready. You are muted, just so you know.
So to summarize my argument, I'm starting first with the fact that Star Wars was so unprecedented that its success was able to launch how we view cinema and franchises and movies like the MCU or like even the Lord of the Rings franchise today, and how it paved the way for this sort of genre, multiple genres of action adventure movies and franchises to have a place in our modern fandom culture. And secondly, I want to talk about the positive influences that Star Wars has had on the way we socialize within the fandom, on how we have charitable causes through the 501st, how you see imagery of Princess Leia or even of the bad guys show up at Protest March to draw comparisons to what's happening to today, or how we have even the actors becoming gay icons or activists or popping up in people's DMs saying, yes, Luke can be gay or trans, whatever you imagine Luke is important, because that's what Star Wars is to these people. It's something that they can see and relate to and bring out and inflect into the world with its message of good versus evil, with its accessibility.
Alrighty, and we're going to give Eric a single, and your time starts when you start speaking.
I would just like to close by saying that the Lord of the Rings films are consistently among many critics' best of lists. They are ranked as some of the most highly influential films of cinema history. As I said, winning an incredible 11 Oscars and completely sweeping every category and having an undeniable impact upon culture, upon fantasy television and movies, upon just every aspect of imaginative entertainment, in my opinion. I would also like to point out that Peter Jackson was knighted for his efforts in creating these films and the impact that they had on his homeland of New Zealand. As I said, the cultural impact upon an entire country is sort of unmatched. I'm sorry, what was that?
5 seconds.
Oh.
Well, go ahead. Say your last sentence. Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to say the cultural impact upon an entire country is unmatched in terms of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and what they have done for New Zealand as
and time. All right. Okay. Woo. Great job, both of you. All right. Let's bring everybody. Go ahead and hop back in as we get into our last category. I'm very excited. Oh my goodness, so intense. It's so intense. We have a couple comments here. An excellent job, everybody. Seriously. Somebody said Avengers is better than Lord of the Rings and Star Wars together.
For the next debate, it'll be Star Wars versus
Actually, for
MCU.
the next debate, I think we're going to do next month is going to be Team Cap versus Team Iron Man.
Oh.
So very excited about that. Very excited about that.
Ooh, I got feelings about that one.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one because I think that's a very interesting one. But let's get back to this one as we get into our third part. How's everybody feeling so far? This is like super intense. Oh my god.
Still very nervous.
How I'm feeling? Pretty confident, if I say so.
I'm feeling pretty confident about my team. I feel like everybody's actually I will say, like, I feel like everybody is just like knocking out of the park right now, and I do not envy the judges because I think everyone's doing a really fantastic job.
I'm just gonna sit here and keep eating cookie dough.
You're working really hard, Alex. I admire you.
I love it. All right, we're getting into our third category, which is story and characters, and arguing that would be myself and Beth, the elf, Potterveld. All right, I'm excited. I need someone else to help decide who goes first.
Do you want me to roll another die?
One.
Even
Sure.
versus odd?
Sure. Call it, Beth. Even or odd?
Odd.
It's a 4.
Okay, so it's even?
Yeah, so it's
that
even. So it means I think it means you go first.
I'm going first? Okay.
I believe that does.
All right.
Bye.
Let me get my notes up here before we get started. All right. Sorry, give me 1 second. I need to handling all the tech as well, so let me get my notes up here. Okay. Alrighty. 2 minutes start whenever I start talking. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the hero's journey and how Star Wars is kind of a perfect example of the hero's journey, not just for its main character Luke, but also for Han, for Leia, heck, even for Vader. We have just wonderful, amazing, satisfying, transformative arcs for all of our characters. The first movie, Star Wars: A New Hope, is a perfect description of it. You know, we have 12 steps here: ordinary world, call to adventure, refusal of the call, meeting a mentor. All of these perfectly represented by the main character of Luke Skywalker, seeing him in his ordinary world in Tatooine, getting the call to adventure from the message from Leia, the refusal of the call, I don't want to do it, meeting the mentor, Ben Kenobi, crossing the threshold, deciding, yes, we're going to go on this quest, the test, the allies, the enemies, all that is absolute perfection. Now let's shift focus to Lord of the Rings a little bit. I think Lord of the Rings gets a lot of it wrong with its main characters. Aragorn takes on like 5 Nazgul, like what, in the first movie, like his narrative like arc, like he's already achieved his hero status. Like I don't see any growth in his character, any significant change in his character over the course of these movies. Frodo, who one would assume is supposed to be the true hero of this, actually fails at the end. He doesn't throw the ring in. He says, no, I'm going to keep it. And the only reason that the ring gets destroyed is because he gets because he's trying to fight Gollum for it after Gollum bites his finger off. It's not because he wants to throw it in there. So I think that, you know, the hero's journey in that actually fails. And so I just don't understand what the story arc is supposed to be in Lord of the Rings, whereas I think the story arc in Star Wars is just kind of timeless and, you know, beautiful. And that's my time. And Beth, your time will start whenever you start speaking.
first, thank you so much for letting me join last minute here. I'm so excited to get to talk about my one true love, Tolkien. And you bring up a whole lot of great points that I could write entire essays on what you just asked about Lord of the Rings. But I have, and we'll definitely get to that in the after my opening statements. First, I want to talk about how we've already mentioned how great Star Wars is at portraying the classic struggle of good versus evil. But Lord of the Rings, I would say, does that so much better. You have the absolutely good hobbits, the good elves, good wizard going up against literal lieutenant of Satan. It doesn't get much clearer than that of who's good and who's evil. And the storyline focuses on that conflict instead of like with the prequel trilogies. You're like, oh, there's the politics and trade disputes. So like, it's confusing and nobody cares. And as we focus on the confrontation between good versus evil, you do see people who are not orcs or Nazgul really struggle with, are they going to do good things or bad things? You have morally ambiguous characters like Gollum, like Boromir and Faramir in the film. Both are good people that end up trying to do terrible things because they're conflicted, and it is hard, even when evil looks like Nazgul, to try to figure out what is good for you to do in your life. And
10 seconds.
Tolkien basically invented world building, and that was so faithfully brought over in the movies with all of the design and the costumes and languages.
Alrighty, there we go. Okay, judges, come back in. Let us know what you want to hear in this open floor phase.
I want to hear what makes your characters and story most interesting. Like, why do I care?
That's a good one.
Okay, anything else?
Just why you think your story is the most engaging, the most entertaining. That's the point, right?
That's right. All right.
What about the story keeps the replay value and how that ties into the story?
Okay. Cool. All right. Everybody else pop back in so we can get into our open argument phase. Also, to answer the question in the chat from Abdullah, the only two characters to appear in every Star Wars movie, I believe, is C-3PO and R2-D2.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the Clone Wars begin? Where did they begin?
Geonosis.
A long time ago in
I guess Geonosis.
Galaxy far away.
That's considered the
guess it'd
first
be-
battle of the Clone Wars. Yeah.
It was clearly in a galaxy far, far away. I mean, that's the only answer.
And
You could argue that the Clone Wars began on Camino because of clones, but yeah.
And I do want to know, I don't think R2 and C-3PO appear in Solo, surprisingly.
Solo,
enough,
yeah.
Despite the fact that they are on the spice mines of Kessel. Or of, yeah.
Not that they worry about being sent to the spice mines of Kessel.
But they did appear
spice
in
life.
The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey for some reason. So
We got everything, baby.
all right. Open argument phase will start whenever someone starts talking.
I would like to
have
start
something
talking.
To say. No, I got something to say right off the back here.
Fine.
real quick. What makes it interesting is that stuff actually happens in Star Wars, whereas in Lord of the Rings, mostly they walk and cry. Just saying.
Oh my god, I hate that argument. I hate it so much. Anyway, I'm going to be countering Maui's argument that the failure at the end is what makes it the hero's journey bad, as well as at the same time be talking to Stephanie about why should we care. The failure at the end is what makes it beautiful. It's because it's grounded in realism that we all fail at some point. And and what makes it beautiful is that there are second chances, and good things can happen anyway, even though we are flawed.
Like
that extends to other characters in the story. As Beth mentioned, there are characters in Lord of the Rings that struggle and that are morally ambiguous, and they deal with temptation and greed, and they're well rounded, rather than be like on, hey, this side is wholly good or this side is wholly evil, and that you should root for them accordingly.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, in Star Wars, there's tons of temptation. There's the whole, draw of the dark side of the Force constantly. I mean, one of the primary and most beloved characters is Han Solo, who is morally ambiguous, in a lot of ways. And it's just kind of like doing the right thing in that moment because it's the right people. And his character development is substantial throughout it.
And good point. I really want to say that about Frodo failing at the end, and in the end it's Gollum who accidentally destroys the ring because of the theme of providence in the book and in the film, and that the theme of mercy, that Bilbo had the chance to kill Gollum but chose to be merciful, and that good action, unbeknownst, nobody could have foreseen it, saved the world.
Yeah. And why?
Okay, but
and huge,
I don't know about that. I think I'm going to push Frodo in there
on that because,
too.
like that. Okay, that doesn't read like that. I think in the film, I think what we see is something completely out of the character's control. Right, ending the thing. Same thing with Aragorn with the army of the dead, just kind of swooping in and saving the day. Like, it takes all of the agency from the characters making the choice to do the thing. The characters getting the reward that gives them the power, the internal and external power to overcome. We don't see that in any of the characters. Even with Sam, who a lot of people I hear say is the hero of the story, he ultimately doesn't do anything. He's just laying there watching.
He's the one person.
What are you talking about? He's the one who brought Frodo to the mountain. He was a ring bearer. He was a whole ass ring bearer for a second there. He was a whole ring bearer for a second there. Also, okay, wait. So Maui. So Maui.
The wrong side.
Maui. Two things there. One, they did actually explicitly talk about how Frodo's act of mercy saves the world. It's prophesied, not really. Yeah, Gandalf says the pity of Bilbo, talking about when Bilbo saved Gollum's life as well. The pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many, specifically foreshadowing what happens in Return of the King. And also, if we want to talk about armies ex machina, what about the clones? Those were just set up behind the scenes to create the whole Clone Wars. Palpatine could have his power grab.
Well, there was an inherent conspiracy that the movie touches on, and I do want to address how the prequels were said. There's a lot of boring stuff in there. I think the original trilogy is great because it is a quintessential, very accessible storytelling, wherein the prequels still have that while also talking about the things, the circumstances, and the difficulties that set up how horrible the world and the galaxy can become. And that is a very relevant story to what we're facing today. How did things get so bad? Who was doing the backdoor dealings in order to create, out of nowhere, a clone army and then militarize the entire galaxy against each other? How did the bureaucracy of the Jedi fail people that they essentially kidnapped and returned them into the very thing that they swore to destroy? I think it's a very complicated and very interesting story.
Well, and good intentions, and how good intentions can drive you to join one side of something because it sounds good and because it looks good, and then it's this whole slippery slope. The frog boiling in a pot of water, sort of thing, where all of a sudden you realize that you're part of the Nazi party, kind of thing.
And also, let's not forget that in the Hobbit, they were making it up as they go along because the guy left after 2 years of pre-production, and Peter Jackson really didn't know what he was doing in that because he had no time to prep. It's zero prep time for that trilogy.
You want to talk about?
So I want to bring it back to the story because we've mentioned a few things about Star Wars's.
That is time. That's time. So you can do that in your closing. Beth, you close first. So let me give you a single here. And your time will start whenever you start talking.
As I mentioned in the opening arguments, entire essays could be written about me and have been could be written by me and have been written by eminent scholars about all of the wonderful story and character here that we see in Lord of the Rings and in The Hobbit. We've mentioned themes and motifs in Star Wars about not falling prey to a slippery slope and things like that. But the themes in Lord of the Rings are so universal and so easily engaged in that will forever be relevant in a society. Themes of hope and friendship and a love of home and the dangers of greed.
All right, wonderful close. And I'll bring myself up, and time will start when I hit my button, or when I start talking. And go. Okay, so basically, I mean, we said plenty about what Lord of the Rings gets wrong, so I'm just going to end with what Star Wars gets right every time. The original film is the perfect quintessential hero's journey. Empire Strikes Back complicates the world. It's the perfect follow-up to that hero's journey by taking everything Luke believes in and turning it upside down. Then with the third one, bringing Darth Vader into the mix and the fight for his soul and seeing his redemption arc as well, which is also anchored by what Luke is doing and by what Leia is doing, and everybody gets a satisfying finale. It's a perfect trilogy. With the prequel trilogy, it is a perfect and beautiful and tragic tale of this hero's fall from grace. We see the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker, and it does so wonderfully and creates such a beautiful expansion to the world. I don't see how there's any argument here. Thank you. And that's time. All right.
You don't see how there are any argument. That's crazy.
That's my end of debate flex at the end.
Boss ass flex, man.
All right, everybody come back in. All right. I need first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who took part in this. This was so much fun. Win or lose, I had such a good time playing in the sandbox with all of you and talking so passionately about the things that we love. Judges, I need you to tally up your scores and Facebook message them to me, and I will pull it up.
Yeah, what do you mean by scores? Do you want us just to choose a winner, or
So for each category, you pick who won, and you give that team 1 point. And so, totaled up between all 3 rounds, you should be giving 3 points distributed between the 2 teams.
You can do half points or full points?
Just 1 point for win or lose per category. You're not even telling me which person won which category. You're just giving me a total score. So
it would be great intermission music right now.
Points and this team gets 1 point. What?
The Imperial March.
I would argue the Isengard theme with its incredible 5/4 time.
I can't picture that audio in my head, though. That's the thing.
And the debate continues. All right. So while we're waiting for
you guys are making it harder, not easier.
Sorry.
While we're waiting for the scores, people, tell me, how'd you enjoy it? Was it more intense than you thought it was going to be?
Yes. The social anxiety of interrupting people in the 5
Such
minutes.
social anxiety.
Yeah.
I would like to see some format changes.
Aggressive personalities, I think, because
Yeah.
I tried to make a point about 3 times and couldn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think maybe for future debates we have, for like the rebuttals specifically, we'd have like only 1 representative per team, or like teammates can't talk subsequently. Like anybody from Team Tolkien can't talk after each other. So like we have like some back and forth instead of like one just kind of taking the spotlight.
One person from one team says something, and then one person from another team says something, and it hops back and forth.
Either that or just have 1 representative per team so they can like actually talk to each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, what is it, passing rules with volleyball or something?
Yeah, like kind of like that.
Yeah.
Except instead of 3 hits, you get 1.
The freestyle 5-minute segment I think felt a little bit too chaotic.
Yeah, a little lopsided.
I think it could also be.
At first, we didn't want to interrupt each other. But then we're like,
let's
that
go.
here, and then we're like all talking over each other.
Right.
Yeah, it would either be like everybody's just like real quiet, or then everyone starts at the same time.
Right, exactly. It's tough, virtually, of course, as well.
I think you could introduce an interesting like game element of like, if one person, whoever begins talking gets to talk, and then on the opposing, when that person's done talking, the opposing team amongst themselves says, "Okay, yeah, you go." And then we keep going back and forth with each team collectively on the spot, choosing who gets to go. So it becomes more of a game of, are you losing time? Did you nominate, the person with the weaker argument to respond? And there's suddenly more chance and variables in there.
Or while one team is talking, if somebody from the other team like wants to say something, they want to signal to their teammates that they want to go next. They like hold up a sign or something. It's like, I want to go next. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I have the totals totaled up. Alrighty.
Does everyone have a table to flip?
I love my teammates, and I think they did a great job regardless of the outcome.
Yeah.
I know I was still sitting on some really great arguments. So
it's okay. We only had so much
time. I wish we had more
Even if we did,
time.
Yeah, the time, especially for the opening, went by really fast. Really fast.
Maui, say you love your teammates, goddammit.
Yeah, Maui.
Say you love your teammates. Say it.
Everybody else did.
I love my teammates. I was
Team Tolkien's all lovey-dovey.
Some team captain over here.
He's busy doing all the administrative.
I think that's a forfeit.
I was tallying up the score. I love here.
Can I give a shout out to Baby Gap? We've got a request in the chat over there.
All right, shout out to Baby Gap. Also, follow up debate. Who wins in the fight between the silverback gorilla and the grizzly bear?
I'm going silverback gorilla.
Gorilla.
Oh, grizzly bear all day.
Grizzly bear.
Grizzly bear's got claws.
Thumbs. It all comes down to the thumbs, baby.
All right, so we need 3 categories. No. All right.
Oh God, here we go. No, thank you.
Here we go.
I'm done.
All right, so Judge 1. I'm not even revealing who Judge 1, 2, and 3 are, but Judge 1.
Or we'll find you. No, I'm kidding.
Judge 1 gave Star Wars 1 point and Lord of the Rings 2 points. Judge 2 gave Star Wars 2 points and Lord of the Rings 1 point.
Ooh, tough.
When I met you, I was but the learner.
Tiebreaker.
Judge 3 gave Star Wars 3 points.
Get out of here.
0 points.
Now I am the master.
Which means the score of 6-3, Star Wars takes Lord of the Rings. Good job, everybody. Good job. Well done, everyone. Well done.
Thank you.
So there we go. We did it. Our very first Dope Debate Club. That was a lot of fun and very nerve-wracking. We're gonna tweak it. We're gonna try some different things. We're gonna take some of that feedback. We're gonna try and tool it a little bit and do some different things, especially in the open floor phase. I think we'll probably need the biggest retooling, especially for the virtual stage. It's really hard. Yeah. I think for that open format in that phase. But overall, I think that went really, really well, and I thought everybody was wonderful and so passionate about their fandoms that they were representing. Also, for the record, I fucking love Lord of the Rings. That's what I want to say. I just want to say, I love Lord of the Rings so much, and I cry like a baby every time I watch it. So, much love to Lord of the Rings. Yes, just wanted to get that out of the way. I would love to hear everybody say something nice about the opposite fandom.
I love Star Wars too. Star Wars is one of my top fandoms, but it just is slightly below Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth for me. That's always my number one.
As long as I've known you, I feel like when I first met you. No, you know what it was? You were reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That's what you were reading when I first met you, when we were in consumer ed together in high school.
Many
Aw.
moons ago.
And as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's my people. All right. Beth, one nice thing about Star Wars.
So I have this little story. When I must have been like 5, maybe 6. I remember watching our VHS of Return of the Jedi, and it was that shot when you just see Wicket's legs as he's about to go get Princess Leia. And I remember seeing that shot and thinking, it's Wicket! Because as a 5-year-old, the Ewoks are my favorite thing. And I knew his name, which is never mentioned in the actual film. I say this to emphasize that I do not remember a time when I was not a Star Wars fan. I remember getting introduced to Lord of the Rings in like high school and 8th grade, but I have always wanted to be a Jedi.
Aw, I love that. I absolutely love that. Shelley, say one good thing about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I do love Lord of the Rings. I saw the first 3 films opening night, at midnight, because I enjoyed them so much. I really love the richness of character and the set design, and the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. So, it was a really hard debate to go to. And I just I think all of us just sort of lean one way or another on these topics. So it was fun though.
G-Pack.
Yeah, I was always a Star Wars person my entire life growing up, and I knew of Lord of the Rings only tangentially. I only really watched the movies for the first time as a cognizant adult this past Christmas. I marathoned the 3, and I marathoned them because they were that damn good. And as a lifelong Star Wars fan and hearing of Lord of the Rings by proxy fandom, knowing that the best of Star Wars creator like Dave Filoni say they owe their storytelling prowess to Lord of the Rings, it all just clicked and made sense when I watched those stories.
Love that. Love that. Kat?
Yes. No, I'm kidding. Although I consider myself a bigger Tolkien diehard, I've been a Star Wars fan longer. I mean, one of my earliest memories of my little sister is watching A New Hope and me putting a pillow in front of her head when Darth Vader comes on screen because I thought she'd be scared. I mean, it's something that I share with my family. Both of my sisters and I are all Star Wars fans, and that even though we're all like very different people now as adults, that's something we can always connect on.
That's true. And also, you host a Bad
Also,
Batch
I co-host
recap.
a Bad Batch recap show. You guys should all watch it.
With
Maui.
If
It's great.
just the most recent episode of Bad Batch was included on this debate, then we would have lost just like
we
went so hard on it. You should go find it. We went in and it was great.
It was so bad.
It was really bad.
Like, why are we doing this? I was like,
why
what is the
are
point
we
of this
here?
episode? And I've really liked every other episode beforehand. I gave that a 2.5. Gavin.
I gave it 2 out of 5. And normally I score things higher than he does.
Yeah, I would say 1.5, dude. That was bad.
Yikes.
Shots fired. Shots fired. Judges, real quick before we call it, I'd love to know what's your fandom out of these two, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings?
Nobody wants to own up. Nobody wants to own up to it.
Judges.
Nobody wants to own up
for the last hour.
I'll
Your
say.
turn.
Well, I grew up watching the Lord of the Rings movies with my mom, so that's like ingrained in me from childhood. But my girlfriend is a massive Star Wars fan, like Star Wars stuff all over. So when we started dating, I was like, guess I gotta watch Star Wars now. So Star Wars is fresher in my brain, but I do love both of them.
Mike?
I'm a much bigger Star Wars fan. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt, one of many I could have worn. But yeah, I mean, they're both great franchises, great fandoms. So it was hard not to lean that way. So I made meticulous notes, but who argued well. So thank you all for doing that.
I saw you scribbling down throughout the thing. Alex, Judge Alex.
Judge Alex, thank you very much in this courtroom. I grew up loving Star Wars. I mean, all of George Lucas's stuff. In fact, like, I throw Indiana Jones into that gamut, just like that kind of thing. But like Star Wars, like I wanted to be Han Solo growing up. I wanted to fly the Millennium Falcon. Like, I remember Force Awakens coming back and like openly weeping in the theaters, like Han and Chewie. They're doing the thing, like and like whatever, take away whatever story, but like the feelings that you get and the emotions that are drawn out of you, I will forever remember more than any story, like detail, and just like being back to being 5 again and seeing it for the first time, and just and I think that Star Wars has that ability on me, and I don't get nostalgic for shit. So
I love it. Thank you everybody for that. Thank you everybody for that. Abby would like to say that her Star Wars stuff is not all over. It's just evenly dispersed throughout the apartment.
A sprinkling, if you will.
The pops and the posters.
As a collector, I really relate to that. They're where they're supposed to be.
So that's our show. Thank you everybody who was on our panel today. I really enjoyed this is one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. It was so much fun playing with all of you. Be sure to tune in next week where we'll talk about some other nerdy crap. It's gonna be great. And next month we'll do our follow-up debate club, Team Iron Man versus Team Cap. Very excited for that one. I gotta find who's gonna be the captains for that. That should be fun because we'll rotate people out and bring in new people every month for that. So I'll probably be in one of the judges for that one. Would be really excited about that. And also, Alex, you have Zooming the Movies coming up that we should plug. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, Sunday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. 6 o'clock wherever else that falls. Goodwill Hunting. I'll say it for the
Alex
third time.
will be playing
Will Hunting. I'll be playing Matt Damon playing Will Hunting, and Maui Jones himself will be Robin Williams playing Sean McGuire.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna I'm just saying we rehearsed it the other day, and it's going to be dynamite. I'm so excited to see Alex portray that character. So be sure to tune in for that.
Apples,
like the sound of them apples.
Applesauce, bitch.
Applesauce. Bitch. Also, be sure to get Hi Mella on everydaywithella.com, written by yours truly. Hardcovers just came in today, so if you ordered a hardcover on Kickstarter, you should be getting it soon. It's very.
Will they be signed copies?
The hardcovers, I believe, were all signed, or everybody requested signatures for that. That was the tier, so yes, it will be signed.
That's so cool because I know the author.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have fun storming the castle.